outcast divided simply cannot stand. And with this, we have two opposing sides, Team Intel and Team AMD. Who will become the winner of this augmented nightmare, and what will it bode for humanity? This is Deus Ex Human Revolution, or not Human Revolution, Mankind Divided. I keep screwing that up. This is from Human Revolution was the last one. This is from Eidos Montreal. Hi, Maddie, who I assume works there because Montreal. And Feral Interactive, written on the Dawn engine. You can pick it up for your standard AAA price of about 60, though if you're in Canada, you're paying 70 because, haha, fuck Canada. So what is it? The year is 2029, and mechanically augmented humans have now been deemed outcasts, living a life of complete and total segregation from the rest of society, much like the rest of 4chan. Now an experienced covert operative, Adam Jensen is forced to operate in the world that has grown to despise his kind. Armed with a new arsenal of state-of-the-art weapons and augmentations, he must choose the right approach, along with who to trust in order to unravel the vast worldwide conspiracy. There's a joke there, I'm just not going to do it. And full disclosure, Feral sent us keys. We got the complete pack. So we got all the lovely DLC. Thank you, fine folks at Feral. We're going to keep shitting on your game right now. So let's kick this off. Then, or actually, no, we got mixed with the working, shiny sounds controls, and fun for our categories of doom. And we also got 1 chair equals blah, 2 chairs equals meh, 3 chairs equals pretty good, 4 chairs equals amazeballs. I completely screwed that up. Whatever. We're doing it live. It's Deus Ex. It's more effort than they put into the sport. Anyways, Ben, did it make with the working?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen. Feral, we love you. Don't listen to Jordan. He's Jordan. Anyway, over here on the box of business, how did it run? Well, let's just get this out of the way. I should note I did not meet the minimum requirements for this game, and we're not just talking about operating system for once, because the minimum is an AMD FX 8350, where I have the AMD 8150 clocked at 4 gigajoules, but, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are not going to meet the minimum requirement, so I'm still going to chime in and say this fun section, review section, is still going to be valid, because people want to know if they might have a chance of playing this game. I'm a little confused with the operating system requirements, because on the Steam store, it says it requires 16.10. I'm running 1604 LTS, and I didn't get the nag screen when I launched it. Maybe something you want to look into. Deus Ex, mixed with the working. First, let's just get this out of the way. With, oh my god, it's tracking all the things I do. So does your ISP. Chill the fuck out. I'm not a fan of not the DLC, but the in-game purchase type stuff. I agree with you on that other thing. The initial load time on the box of business with the 8150, 980 powered, displayed at UHD, but this was a 1080 title. Probably should have tried 720. Didn't think about it. The initial load times, again, hella high. You're looking at like 4 minutes just to walk into this business. It does say it requires 8 gigajoules of RAM. Unlike Mad Max, it said it required 8, didn't really use it. This one, you better have it, or you're going to have a bad time. So I had to shut everything down with my 8 gigajoules. Couldn't reliably get this thing to stay over 60, even with a 980, with everything set to low. That was not a very good experience. And wait, it just froze, which is going to do that. I think we all had that problem. But unfortunately, after it froze for the first time, it did that 4-minute load again, which just really sucks. But after it does that, you can load the game at a regular speed, but then it did the 4-minute load thing again. This time it's like 50-50 chance of whether or not I'm going to get into this title in under 6 minutes. So, yeah, mixed with the working on that one, kind of thin, but the other bug I have right now is a perpetual load screen when I'm trying to travel to wherever the Fucksville on the tube. Maybe that'll get sorted. Maybe it's something I did, but I guess in conclusion, I can say 100% it technically launches. So, yeah, that's technically going to get 2 chairs.
Yeah, this is another Feral game that can't run on UHD. My good friend over there, Brother Ven, he's on Team Red. He's got the AMD processors. I'm on the i7-6700K with the GTX 980, and it's a little better than that. No, I hadn't run into any crashes. I ran into one issue where in the middle of one of those conversation cinematics, the dialogue didn't trigger, and I just had shot reverse shot with Mr. Jensen and the journalist he was talking to perpetually. I had to actually kill the game. And I also had another weird bug where it wouldn't let me rotate 360 degrees. If I was moving to the left, I could move 180 degrees. But if I had to rotate another however many degrees to actually make the circle, but in the other direction. But beyond that, the really, really awful load times are really, really awful. And really beyond that, no real issues. I've put about 6 or 7 or 8 hours into the game at this point. So the sheer number of issues I've run into are fairly low, aside from the fact that it will crawl at UHD with the i7 and the 980 at UHD, but beyond that, 4 chairs.
Yeah, so just to balance things out, I too am on Team Red. I have the AMD FX 8370E. It's overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz, and I have a GTX 1080, 16 gigabytes of 1866 megahertz RAM, and 2 SSDs, 2 Samsung 850 EVOs in YOLO RAID. So when that first load took 4 minutes, a full 4 minutes to get through, I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I opened up HTOP, and it was using 2 threads. 2 at 100%. The rest of them just, nope. Okay. Then I started playing the game, and in the first 5 hours, I had 3 freezes. The third freeze, as in the game, actually completely froze, and thankfully it let go of the keyboard so I could just Alt-Tab and kill it. But when I looked at HTOP, systemd's core dump module was pegging one of the threads of my CPU at 100%, and it kept on pegging it for a full 3 minutes before it finally went away. Wow, you managed to crash a systemd module. Wow. There's definitely a bottleneck in this game because it's really bad. The performance is really, really bad, and I'm guessing it's CPU related. It's almost as if we're talking about a feral port. Oh, wait, we are. There's also a benchmark in the game, yes, which it's about as useless as Tomb Raiders and about twice as bottlenecked as F1 and Crit Autosport. There will be a link in the show notes for you to look at my benchmark results. It's completely pointless. So, and there was an issue that I ran into where I couldn't literally save the game anymore. This is a known bug. You can work around it by going back to the main menu, opening up the shop. That's the microtransaction shop, by the way. You have to look at one of the items in detail. You don't need to buy anything, and then you can go back in game, and it'll let you save the game again. Now, Hanlon's Razor tells us not to attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. But something tells me there's a bit of malice at work here. And just to put the cherry on top, I, like Ven, also ran into the infinite loading screen. So for me, it gets 2 chairs.
So I'm the other person on Team Blue here with a 4790K. And yeah, the first thing I noticed is when I wanted to download the game, it shows up as a 25 gigs download when the game is actually 57 gigabytes. So Steam gets all confused and it will almost finish the download. And in the end, the download will seem really slow and it will take a long time. That's because it needs to download the other 25 gigs. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it got installed pretty good. I mean, nothing to notice. I am running the recommended OS, so that's Ubuntu 16.10, and the recommended driver, which is the NVIDIA 367.57. And yeah, I haven't had one crash except one, but I'll talk about this a little bit later. Same as everyone else, I had a very long load time. The second one was a little bit shorter, but still very long. And all the load times after those ones were really short. I mean, just entering the game, when you load the levels and everything, it's a bit long, but not horrible. But I mean, with a game that size, you would kind of expect this. Yeah, I ran the benchmark, the in-game benchmark on medium, and it wasn't looking that great. I got an average of 40 FPS, lots of tearing. It didn't look that great. But while in-game, it was much better, and I got between 50 and 70 FPS also on medium. No tearing, very smooth gameplay, it looked great. I did try it on Ultra, and I did get about between 20 and 30 FPS, so it was kind of playable, but still it was not as good as playing it on medium, and the difference was not really noticeable. So, and I ran into one thing that was really interesting. It's for the first time I hit the limits of those 3.5 gigs on my GTX 970. This is the first time it happened, and the loading screen began to get really slow, and I went to do something else, and when I came back, the game had crashed to the desktop. So I'm not going to blame either Feral or Eidos for that, but I'm going to blame NVIDIA. But yeah, I mean, if you have the correct hardware and the correct drivers and operating system, you're going to have a very good experience with the game. That means if you have an Intel CPU with a lot of gigahertz and a good and recent NVIDIA GPU, preferably of the 10 series, that would be better. So
remember,
I'm going
kids,
to give it 4
you have good hardware, not a good combination. Yeah,
the pieces are not put in the right order.
Yeah, I too have troubles when I'm trying to stick my video card into my CPU socket. Anyways, that is 3 chairs for Makes with Working. Up next is Shiny and Sounds. Ven, were your prosthetic eyes blown away, or does this look like some Ghost in the Shell bad CGI?
The correct answer to that is yes, as always. The one thing that's driving me insane about this game, when it comes to Shiny and Sounds, is totally on the developers and whoever did the UI layout. Put the quit button far away from everything else. That just pisses me off. I don't know why that's there. I mean, it took me, granted, I'm not a clever man, but it was like a good 8 seconds, and I was like, where's the quit button? I have a pretty big monitor. I was like, oh, it's all the way over there for fuck you. That's why. That's neither here nor there. Well, what does it look like? Pretty much got to play it on low, Brad. That's the thing. So just keep that in mind when I'm about to wrap here. It kind of sort of looks almost as good as Half-Life 2 on Fugly, but maybe not quite. If you cut it up to just to medium, which I'm guessing is a sweet spot for most people to be able to play it, it starts looking like a AAA title from 2016, but really, if I'm running at a medium outdoor frame rates for that, it's going to be like low 20s, not necessarily playable. It is kind of jarring how this game likes to switch back and forth between, pre-rendered full motion video and in-game. It's like doing that, because sometimes you can be playing it on Fugly, but you'll see like the pre-rendered recording, like, oh man, I wish it looked like that, and then it'll drop you back into Fugly mode. That's definitely a thing. The voice acting, it's all right. I mean, I hope it is. It has to be, really, when you think about it, because fuck all, there's a lot of voice talking, dialogue dumping in Deus Ex. Not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes you kind of feel like you're just sitting around watching more of a cinematic experience than you are participating in one. Not really much in the way of background noise, background music, whatever you want to call it, outside of just the environments themselves. No complaints. It's not bad. It's not good, but yeah, when it comes to those looks, I'm going to give it 2 because it works.
Yeah, I got to play this game on high, unlike the rest of these Philistines, so I got the full graphical fidelity. So I got a question. Does anyone else have that issue where the game will suddenly switch to windowed mode after you die and you hit escape, or you hit enter to load your last save?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, that was pissing me off for a while. But I mean, this is a game that looks and sounds triple AE. It came out earlier this year. Although the guy they have voicing Adam Jensen sounds like a really, really out of it Keanu Reeves impersonator. And what was Keanu too busy filming Bill and Ted 3? I mean, he would have been perfect for this. Though I will say the cinematics sometimes they look a bit Xbox-y in quality. Like I've played some equivalent looking games on the Xbox 360. I don't feel like I don't feel like it's pushing that much of the graphical end of things, because going back a couple weeks to another Feral port, Mad Max, where it seamlessly blended the pre-rendered cutscene and the in-game footage after you level up, you're not 100% sure that you have control of the game just yet. And that's what I'm used to now. I'm spoiled. But the voice acting is solid. There is most of the background noise is people talking in the background, which is actually kind of nice because sometimes you can use drop on people's conversations, although it's always the same, like 4 or 5 different conversations. Either way, this looks good, although I am not blown away by this. I will give it 3 chairs.
Yeah, the visual aesthetics look good, but they're very, very janky. And the lip sync, which you're going to be seeing a lot of, because there's a lot of cutscenes, there's a lot of dialogue, and yeah, I'll get into that more in the fun segment. But the lip sync is just slightly out of whack. It could be due to the poor performance, but it's very noticeable either way. Sound-wise, though, I have no complaints. The voice acting is spot on. The background music, those very few times that you actually notice it because you're trying to sneak around a place, it gives me a Metro Last Light vibe. It's pretty good. And I wish I could appreciate the audio-visual acuity, but when you have to play the game at lower settings in order to maintain some semblance of performance, especially on a 1080, it's hard, man. You're killing me, Feral. You're killing me. 3 chairs.
Yeah, well, I thought that this was easily one of the better looking games here we have on Linux. Even if you have to run it in medium settings, you can. Running it in higher settings, you would get like some minor improvements, but with a lot of costs in performance. So yeah, you can run it in medium. It will still look really great. I've noticed this thing with the loss of lip sync with some cutscenes. It happened once when the cutscene did stutter for a bit, and then after the stutter, the lip sync was lost. So I think that's tied to an issue in performance or something like this. Yeah, there's the first cutscenes. There's a 12-minute recap about human revolution. So I think this uses footage from the Xbox 360 game. So this won't look as good as the other cutscenes. Strange things I noticed is that you have the cutscenes, some cutscenes that are at 200 frames per second, and some other at 30. I don't know why that is, but I mean, this doesn't really matter. The sound and music is really good. It's what you would expect from a AAA title. Very good voice acting, sound effect, nothing to complain about. It really looks great. Yeah, I mean, I'm giving it 4 chairs.
All right, well, that's 3 chairs for Shiny and the Sounds. Up next is Controls. Ben, how did it control?
Okay, we got to make up some time. It works. Waz, works with your gerbil. It's brilliant. Yes, you could play with this with a controller. I touched the X-Clone controller. Things moved, but if you do that and you play any type of first-person shooter with a controller, you should have your hands chopped off and you don't get augmented and replacey things. One little downside, not a bug, but the gerbil sensitivity, wicked high out of the box. I had to crank that down to like 30%, and I like very fast gerbils. Giggity. So, boom. Finally get to give it 4 chairs.
Yeah, I noticed that too with the mouse sensitivity. I cranked it down to about 50% of the default setting, and it worked fine for me, but whoa. Also, boo Feral! I plugged in the PlayStation 4 controller because I thought, hey, Mad Max had correct button prompts. This game should as well. It doesn't. I get Xbox prompts. Boo! Hiss! You had a nice little streak too, and you ruined it, Feral. You ruined it. I will say, though, if you want to actually play this game with a controller, Steam controller. Use your little touchpad for aiming. Use your thumb. It is better than using a joystick. I played it exclusively with keyboard and mouse because it's a shooter, and that's how my brain works. Though figured it'd be worth a mention. And yeah, I mean, the controls are there. They're a little spread out all over the keyboard. I'd prefer a little more better consolidation. Also, the knockout thing says hit Q, and I hit Q and it executes them. What's up with that? Beyond that, everything works the way I expected it to. It hijacks the mouse sensitivity buttons on my mouse, which is kind of annoying if I want to adjust the sensitivity on the fly, especially for a shooter, but whatever, 3 cheers.
Yeah, playing first-person games with a controller is grounds for getting yourself sectioned. And I guess that's fitting considering the theme of the game. But, all things considered, this, even on a technical level when it comes to the controls, you can rebind all the keys and set individual sensitivities for the X and Y axis on the mouse movement. I don't think I've ever seen a game on Linux do that. Kind of amazing. So, bonus points for that. But I still have to think in a chair because if you do change the controls, and if you are like me, you got your mouse on your left hand and you use the keyboard directional arrow keys for movement, you will have to rebind a lot of stuff. And if you do, the prompts, when they show up in game proper, will still show up with the default key. That can get a bit confusing at times. So for me, it gets 3 chairs.
Mm-hmm. So controls, there are lots of them. And just like mankind, I'm divided on whether we should play it with a keyboard and mouse or a controller. I mean, I tried it with the Xbox 360 controller, worked fine, but didn't really have a good time. Then again, it's an Xbox 360 controller. This is not a game for the Xbox 360, though, so makes a lot of sense. I tried it with the Steam controller after that, and I had a much better experience. But you'll have to launch it from Steam Big Picture. Otherwise, the controls will be all over the place. The mappings will be wrong, and I guess you'll have to launch it at least once. I haven't tried it several times, but yeah, the Steam Big Picture configuration will sort everything out, and it will run just perfectly after that. So, yeah, for everything except precise aiming, controller works better than the keyboard and mouse. And it's a first-person game, yes, but it's not really a shooter, or at least it doesn't have to be one. For all of this, then the Steam controller is really the best way to play the game. And for the shooter parts, yeah, keyboard and mouse works better. It's just the same thing as with Alien Isolation. I had the same problem. Really good with the Steam controller, but also it works well with keyboard and mouse. I thought of that. It's the type of game that if you go and don't play it for 2 months and you go back to this game, then you won't remember a thing and you will have to relearn everything because it gets confusing. There are lots of controls. So yeah, I'll get it 3 chairs for the controls.
All right, well, that's 3 cheers for controls. Let's wrap this up then. Did you have fun playing Deus Ex Mankind Divided?
Oh, man. See, this segment, I'm going to say let's not make up some time because Strider took that as like to see if he can do a solid 10 on the control section. Getting past the tutorial on this motherfucker. Oh, man. It's on hard mode. It's good times. I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, all right, this game's curb checking me. It's like, all right, I guess I definitely have to learn to play it your way. But unfortunately, 2 hours in, I don't have an idea what's going on. And I put 4 hours into it. Since that, really got up to the point in the game so far to where it's like, okay, well, you have to start juggling which augments you have activated or you'll overheat because we haven't, Hyper 212 Evos or anything in the past. And you can't stick them all over your body. Yeah, no, really lost a lot of interest for this right then and there. But that was just adding on top of, you're playing as, Captain Badass. You have like the government augments and secret shit. No, you're like this little 10 god fucker, man. Anything can kill you. Why are people scared of these people? Because you can just get like a pool noodle or something like that. But you got to play it as a stealth game, Vin. I was like, really? All right. Is this a stealth game? Or is it an action game? Is it a spreadsheet simulator? For fuck help you. Look at the damn menus in this game and you're like, ah. Because the answer to those three questions is a resounding yes. It is all three of those things. And I don't think it particularly does any of those three things particularly well. I mean, just the amount of crap it wants me to keep track of is just off-putting for me. But like I said, I'm not a clever man. So that might not necessarily be a bad thing if I gave two damns about the character or what's going on. I simply don't. I don't know the backstory. Mad Max, love that game. It had a slow burn. I was over an hour into it, like, meh, I don't know about this. But it finally caught, it ignited, and I was like, okay, I'm in the world. We're doing things. And this, yep, 2 hours, well, 4 hours in now, and I don't care about the world. And I really don't know what's going on. Trugs left a comment in the notes. He was like, I'm 8 hours in. I still don't really know exactly what's going on. And I was like, okay, gotcha. But, you know, it's a bit sad because I was very hyped about this game since its announcement. And, you know, even though I don't know or didn't know what a Deus Ex, what it was, if this is what it is, I am kind of, you know, glad that I've been missing out the whole time. But if you look at the Steam reviews for this game, they're mixed. And I think they're mixed for a reason. So, yeah, no, sir. No, sir. I didn't like it. It hurts me. One chair.
Harsh buzz, man. Harsh buzz. I do like how this game's concept itself boils down to you have to kill them. But make sure no one's watching when you do that. Once you get out of the tutorial level, which is pretty fucking hard. Especially because you don't have any hit points, by the way. Once you get your augments and you're able to select them, max out your hit points. You'll do yourself a favor. But early on in the game, there was this thing where you have to infiltrate this one guy's lab to get your augments unlocked. And they're like, oh, you can't go through the front door. You got to find a way to sneak in. And so I go and hack all the keypads and consequently learning how to play the hacking minigame, which is kind of shitty. I scouted all the locations. I went to all the rooftops and I couldn't find a way in until I discovered really the way to do it is if you sort of hide in a corner and shoot one of the guys with the tranquilizer darts and start a firefight, it's positioned in such a way that the cops won't see you. So you just have to kill everyone else. Which brings me to one of the things that the game does really, really well. Really tense firefights because you don't have a lot of health and you can't take a lot of hits. It makes those firefights seem like you're fighting for every little inch of ground that you get, which I really like. I think I like that sort of gritty style of gunplay in a cyberpunk game. One thing, though, that really bugs me, super inconsistent falling height limit, because at the beginning of the game, in the tutorial, just before you complete it, you have to leap off a building and land, which you subsequently lose the ability to do, apparently. And even if it's a little too high, like, I can, like, a roof that might, like, sprain your ankle or something, might break something at the very, very worst. No, your neck snapped, your legs just shot straight into your torso and you died. Yeah. So the game itself is pretty dense, and it has a very dense storyline. I spend a lot of the time just listening to the freaking cutscenes and going through all the conversation options and reading all the lore because I don't know what the hell is going on here. Like Truggy, I'm about 8 hours in. I have no fucking clue what's happening. I got to the Golem City thing, which is like the second stage. I breaking into a police department, and that's about where I am right now. I'd like to actually classify this game as sort of a weird hybrid between like first-person shooters, a role-playing game, and a point-and-click adventure game, because so much of your quest lines are go and rifle through every single object this person owns until you find the one thing you need to progress, and then go back.
Kleptomania simulator.
Yes, and you're going to be walking a lot, and you have a limited run. You will be walking for a while. They might as well just call this game Deus Ex Lord of the Rings. But you can't even shove gerbils into the microwave. Compared to the open worldness of Mad Max, this is fairly lacking. Also, where the hell is all the goddamn ammo? I had a conversation with Pedro's like, oh yeah, it's all over the place. I looked everywhere. I could not find ammo. I started off with the tranquilizer gun, spent all that ammo because it's a really, really good weapon, and then realized, all right, well now I'm just shooting my way through everything else. I was also a little disappointed. I went and unlocked all the hacking and remote hacking stuff, and remote hacking is less useful than I had hoped. Beyond that, it's an interesting game. I haven't hit that part yet where it's starting to be fun though, so I can only give it 2 chairs.
Yeah, there's one thing I love in certain video games, which is when they don't lock you into a particular playstyle and actively reward you for adopting multiple skill trees. You want to play Ghost in the Shell? You can. You want to play Call of Duty and just go in guns blazing? You can. There's a reason that Fallout 2 is still my all-time favorite game. Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, actively, just like Fallout 2, actively rewards you in exploring and doing things in different ways. Even sometimes, okay, you already found a path that you need in order to progress, go back, find another path, get more stuff. It's really, really fun. And I think, having played Human Revolution before, I think that Mankind Divided actually does that much better than Human Revolution did. For all the complaints I've read and heard about Mankind Divided in specific, about it being atrociously short, it is definitely very densely packed. But I still have trouble justifying €50 for what is little more than an expansion pack. Granted, it does improve on Human Revolution in several ways, but it also introduces microtransactions on top of those €50. There's also the issue that for a game, you don't really spend a lot of time playing it. I mean, most of your time you're sitting on your ass, looking at a semi-blank slate attempt to have conversations with the characters around him. Now, I'm all for narrative in a video game if it complements the gameplay, and Mankind Divided is a perfect example of what happens when the development team had to shove an entire novel's worth of narrative into a pamphlet. They didn't so much summarize it as they just made the proverbial font small enough for it all to fit in that pamphlet. So how about, instead of taking away my agency as a player, just so I can sit through another overlong cutscene / dialogue / takedown animation, you let me keep doing my thing, maybe? Half-Life 2 did narrative gameplay very well, and that game came out in 2004. That was 12 years ago, man. 2 chairs.
Yeah, so I got the game installed this morning. So I haven't had the time to fully I have played like less than 2 hours, so it's not really enough to give a proper judgment of this as fun value. But the little I played, I did enjoy lots. And I mean, it's really well done. And this is a game that I will want to play some more and possibly even finish. I mean, I do tend to try to finish all the games I start, but this is a game that I will be playing in the future. So this is the first Deus Ex game I've really played. I mean, I maybe have played 1 hour of the first one, but that's about it. So I can't really compare it to the other ones in the series. But as a game by itself, it's really solid. Also, I don't like games that are too long, like 50 hours. It's a bit too much for me. So judging from howlongtobeat.com, they say it's between 20 and 30 hours long. So that's just about right for me. I mean, it's even on the long side, but if it keeps on being as good as it is right now, as the beginning is, well, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with this, and I'll keep playing it until the end. So 3 chairs for me.
All right, well, that's 2 chairs for the fun section. If we tally all that up, that is 2 chairs total. So let's wrap this up. Ben, despite the fact that Mick Foley does not get bisected in this game, what did you think of Mankind Divided?
It was a game that, I don't know, man. It was just trying to be too many things, man. It's like a Swiss Army knife of nope. And I don't know. It's a bit dense for me. It's so much to take in. And then again, like I said, usually after I put 4 hours into something, I'm not telling you whether or not you should like it. I'm telling you what I think of it. That's all we're doing. And it needs work. It needs work. I mean, the story's not there to drive. And he's like, but the performance, you could have played at, 20 frames a second. Yes, I can play a game at 20 frames a second all the fucking way through like I did with Tomb Raider, but I like that story. I sit through that game before it got patched to where it was performant enough, not to be a slideshow. It didn't matter. This, even though I can get, 30, maintain 30 in there, it's like, I don't really care, man.
Yeah, it's actually nothing short of ironic how an AMD gaming evolved game, because the branding is actually there, and it works like ass on AMD FX CPUs. But then again, you need to keep in mind this is a Linux context we're talking about. It's a shame about the performance. I could even be persuaded to finish it, just like Ven. I finished Tomb Raider before it was patched. If it weren't for all the random lockouts, because when I see the game freeze, I don't want to go back in. I don't.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a game that you pick up and play like 5 minutes, because 5 minutes is basically the time it will get to get back into the game. So if you want to play this game, well, be prepared to go there for like an hour or two, or if you don't, it's not really worth it. Yeah, but for first experience in Deus Ex, really good one for me. So I have the correct hardware. I didn't have any crashes. Looks good, and yeah, it looks like fun to me. Really.
Yeah, I like Cyberpunk. I like it as a genre. I think this is a game that could be good given some polish. And also maybe smooth narrative exposition into the gameplay as opposed to making me sit through a ton of it. But beyond that, like I said, I'm very upset that Mick Foley was not bisected at any point during this game called Mankind Divided. It is a complete misnomer.